by design, have we not been given the opportunity to have access to the information to build our nation?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. We've been dumbed down, but the funny thing is that because we're not really so big on history, or if we are big on history, we're big on studying our own history, which is useful and great and powerful for like building ourselves up and finding an identity and all that stuff. But what we're missing is like the whole history. So like we're kind of in the dark about how things come to be.
But what are you talking about? The whole history, fam? We went to the same high school. We took history class.
Yeah.
Do I not know everything there is to know about white people?
Like, no, you don't know. You don't know almost anything about what white people really do. Because the funny thing is that I feel that we generally put them all into one box.
Yeah.
And we say that's what they do. And then we don't really consider what their wars are, even when we're not in the picture. Because even without us being in the picture, they have their own battle that's going on.
What are you talking about, man? We're talking about a people that were before 7-Eleven, where like the Moors came to Spain, were like Neanderthals. Like they didn't bathe. Like they didn't, they had no like. They had no hygiene. They were the original, like were they not the original cavemen? Like the stereotypical, stick and pulling the woman by the hair, like having no respect.
But there's one difference that they had, and some people do kind of know this anyway, but there's one difference between them and us, is that people always say that they took this from us, they stole that from us, they learned how to do this, they learned how to clothe themselves, bathe, all this stuff from us. But if you're noticing that, so every time that they see something that's useful, that someone else is doing it, they incorporate it into themselves so much that they pretend that it's their creation. Whereas we, on the other hand, kind of have written off like either the whole thing, or we kind of pick pieces at kind of random. So we end up like choosing to incorporate into ourselves like some of their more evil concepts, but then we don't even really know about any of the noble things that could be useful, because we are still human beings. They are still humans, just like we are still humans. So something that would be successful for them would be successful for us, unless we're going to say that we're so different that what's good for the, I won't use that expression, but that what worked for them won't work for us. Like if you're saying what you're saying, like if we're looking at how backwards they're starting out.
Yeah.
But then how is it that they end up in a Renaissance at some point? And there's no denying that when the Renaissance was taking place, all these people who were backwards, a lot worse off than we are, illiterate, almost all illiterate.
Yeah.
But then they found a way to build themselves out of that.
Yeah.
Right? And basically the thing is that what worked for them can work for us. If we can incorporate into ourselves the best ideas that the history of humanity has to offer, and we can start using those, then we can possibly have similar results or better results.
So am I being like, the questions I'm asking, am I being a conspiracy theorist? Am I making outlandish, like unfounded points that, saying that they were Neanderthals, saying that they were, making presumptions, or making statements like they learned, they were civilized by Africa, the continent of Africa, whether or not they were black. Okay, we can have that conversation, but they were civilized by the continent, were they not? of
Well,
Africa.
I think that you're not necessarily wrong when you say that. If you look at like the fall of Egypt, you know, they were using like the foundation of places like Austria or the those societies that led to the Greek society. Those
Yes.
all of those societies were, you know, they started out as like mercenaries for like the Egyptian army and stuff like that, right? So a lot of them are colonies of uh, of the Egyptian government or whatever, right? The
Yeah.
ancient Egyptian government. So yes, that the you know, and obviously you know about all the different philosophers and thinkers of Athens in particular, that went, you know, that studied with, you know, in the craft of Amun Ra or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So we know that there was that transfer of knowledge that you know, or Solon from Athens, who was the person that really was the first to kind of try to create some sort of a just society. His concepts were all derived from what he experienced when he was in Egypt as well. So yes, it is true that that they got a lot from the continent, but then they used it, right?
Right.
And then they made it into their own. But the thing is that there's two sides fighting on in their own in their world. There are two sides to them. So
Okay.
there was one side that is more similar to what we want to do, and then there's the side that is dominating us right now, but they're dominating them too, right? So that's the thing. Like people always think of it as like, you know, that you know, it was the white people that came and conquered us, but those same white people that conquered us had conquered all the other white people before they came to us, right? So
What
like
are you talking about?
for example, if you think of
They're Europeans, like that. They're all, aren't they not one? They're all one people. What are you talking about?
no. See, if you look at if you let's take Venice for an example, the sovereign republic of Venice, right? So they were like the you know the dominant imperial force of their time. They had all the ships. They were dominating everybody. They had a monopoly on trade all through the Mediterranean, right? So that
And now
um,
and the Mediterranean, you're talking about the Mediterranean Sea, which has access to the continent of
yep.
Africa.
Oh yeah.
You know, basically the gateway to the Middle East, which is
Mm-hmm.
Israel and things
Absolutely,
like
through the
that.
Black Sea. Yes, yes.
Yeah, the Black Sea, and then you're talking about all of, you know, Spain and Greece, and you know, we all know the, you know, the history of
Turkey,
Greece, Turkey, and things. Yeah, Turkey, of course. Yes. Okay.
Lebanon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I lost my thought there. So
So
yeah, so that power had been dominating all of the other European powers. So like even if you go before that, like for example, you know, all of the foundations laid for places like France, places like England, all those other places, it's because they were conquered by the Romans, right?
yeah,
So it's
because the
so
Romans,
you know we're looking at them all
evolved.
as Romans, but they're not. We can't really look at them all as Romans because like it's just they have this one parasitical society that's like swallowed up all of their societies, and then that big mass is what came to swallow us.
Okay, so what you're saying? Okay, so way back when, you know, I'm gonna pull out the Bible. You know, Jesus was crucified at a time where I'm sorry, you may know better than me. Where was Jesus crucified? In Jerusalem?
Yes.
All right. So at that time, the Romans were ruling Jerusalem. They had control of Jerusalem,
Yes.
right? Okay. So, you know, as the story goes, the Roman ruler asked the people what they wanted to be done to Jesus. If did they want, you know, and they chose that he be crucified and to let go some barbaric, savage, rapist, you know, monster to the people, and then decided that Jesus would take his place and be crucified. All
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
the Romans, not necessarily the people, but the rulers, that's the group of people
Yeah.
who went and uh, colonized or went to war with and got power of London, England.
Yes. 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 There's a straight line from, ancient times until now where it's like the same little I don't want to call it cabal, but
Yeah.
the same like oligarchy group that's like just keeps moving their location, right?
So
They
the
still want to
Roman
run.
Empire. So the Roman Empire is the European Empire.
Yeah, when we think about the people that signed the Berlin Conference, the intellectual concept that was governing those guys that eventually came into Africa is the Roman ideology, or Babylonian if you want to go further back than Rome, or
Okay.
Persian if you want to go around the same. Like Persian comes after the Babylonians, but
Yeah.
it's that same concept of like it's the alternative to what you had going on in Egypt. Because in Egypt you have this whole natural law situation where you have, it's the first society, right? So the first societies were only really able to grow. You would get into power because you had some knowledge that gave you some advantage, and then people wanted to follow you, right? So when you get into things like the Babylonians and things like that, they're kind of following in the footsteps of like the rogue, say the rogue scholars of Egypt, who realized that they could be more powerful than the pharaohs.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were the ones that were running the churches, they were the ones getting the donations, they were the one teaching the pharaoh's children, they were teaching all the rich, all the like wealthy people. So when they decided that they didn't have to necessarily be dependent on any individual society, they just felt like they could be anywhere. They didn't have to be loyal to where they were. They could be actually loyal to two different places, and whoever wins that, you know what I mean? They make the other person pay. So it ended up being more advantageous for them to not necessarily be loyal to any one group, but to kind of play the aloof role and then kind of be the advisors to everyone, right?
Wow, play the aloof role. To me, that's so powerful because
I've been down this road before, but now I got my shit together.